Okay, ladies.
Okay. Hi, Rose.
Hello, Eve. How are you?
Pleasure seeing you here.
I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be anywhere.
Absolutely.
You know, above ground is better than underground.
Every day.
Every day.
Yes.
Where did you grow up?
I was born in Florida, a place called Orlando. And I grew up from age 2 up to about 8 in Indiana. I have many family members in Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Your part?
Cherokee and German.
Half Cherokee?
It's about a quarter and mixed. I'm a true American thoroughbred. You know, I have a lot of different lineages in me, but Cherokee, German, and probably a little English and other things are tossed in there.
Yeah. What is your earliest memory?
I can remember being about a year and a half old.
Year and a half?
You remember the little plastic training pants that children would wear when we were young?
Yes!
I remember wearing those and walking across the street from where my grandparents lived, and we were living with them at the time in Indiana. And I remember that age because I was in my little pants.
I've forgotten all about that. Yes, everybody wore them.
When they had babies, that's what
Yes.
they put on them with cloth diapers.
What was your favorite toy growing up?
My favorite what?
Toy?
Toy? Oh, my. I can remember those plastic rings on the little stand thing that you had to stack them in size and shape and colors.
They still sell those.
I probably do. But I remember that. I enjoyed that.
What was the hardest lesson you had to learn as a child?
Okay, I got to think about that one. The hardest lesson I had to learn as a child was I was the youngest. So I'd be treated good by adults, but my siblings were difficult toward me with resentments and things like that, because I
Why?
was the baby.
You were the baby?
I was the baby. My oldest sister was 16 when she was 8 years older than I am. So when I was little, she was my babysitter.
Oh.
So that was her resentment, and there's just two older brothers under her. And it was just, I was the brat baby thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's good and bad about marriage?
Well, considering I've been married twice and neither one of those was any good, I don't know what to tell you what a good one would be. And I don't lie, so therefore I'm not the best judge of a good marriage.
What's wrong with the marriage?
Both of my marriages were very violent, and they were, my first marriage I was 16 and he was 19, and basically we were babies, and he didn't have to drink or drug, he just got mean when he got mad. So he got mad a lot with me.
Oh.
And my second husband, I met him when I was 17. We had a 25-year marriage, and it all revolved around drugs and alcohol. I have a beautiful daughter from that. She's the best result
I
of
met
that
her.
whole marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, she's beautiful. What's the most outrageous lie that you've been told?
I have been told about me or others. Most outrageous lie I have ever heard. I don't know. That keeps going back to when a man tells you he loves you and only you. That's probably the most
That's the
outrageous lie I've ever heard.
Or
so far.
I'll be faithful.
Yes,
Yeah.
those are right there in the same category.
Yeah. What's the most outrageous lie that you've told?
That I've told is, that I'm 6 foot tall, skinny, and beautiful.
You told that lie?
It's been a long time, but yeah, I probably did at least once.
Do you have a bucket list?
I would like to actually see the big redwoods. I've never seen those. There's a lot of the country I've not seen.
There's a lot of the country you have seen.
Yes, there is. There really is. I've been to some beautiful places. I have seen the Grand Canyon, and I'm really happy about that. I saw a little bit of Colorado, but I've never been any further north, and I've never been any further west than, say, Phoenix. So I would like to see more of the West Coast yet.
Tell me about the place you live in now.
Where I live now is it's beautiful on the other side of, well, it's just the other side of Camp Verde here. It's got the beautiful white on the mountains and the hills around it. The building I live in is not so hot, but other than that, it's beautiful right around there. Camp Verde.
What was the last event that made you cry?
I think the last event that really made me cry is I had to end a long-distance relationship just recently that didn't work. So that made me cry. So that's enough on that one.
Okay, I'll get off
You'll
of
get
that.
me crying again. I don't want to.
How did you learn about sex?
Well, I believe I saw a lot of our farm animals doing it, and my dad said that's what they were doing. So that's probably my first impressions of it.
Did your parents sit down and give the birds and bees talk?
Oh, heck no. I learned about it before they ever gave me the talk, so I was very young. So
How old were you?
I was 11 years old the first time I had sex. And he was a grown-up, and it was probably not appropriate. But it happens.
Yeah, it happens.
A lot.
Yes, more than we care to think about.
Yes.
Many of the women I've spoken to were brought up to think sex was shameful. How were you brought up?
Well, I grew up on a farm. It was a small farm. We had a lot of animals, and it was just the most natural thing in the world. There was nothing sinful about it because when I was very young, we didn't really go to church. So I didn't know about that part of the sinfulness, and it was just natural.
Would you ever skydive or bungee jump?
I don't believe so. Why jump out of a perfectly good plane or jump off a good bridge? I just don't get those things. So, not.
Yeah. Do you think about God?
Every day.
What do you think God is?
My understanding of God is the creator of all. And we would not be without him, her. And to me, my creator is the one that has made everything, everywhere and all over. So my understanding is very huge and vast. It's not very small in a building.
What brought you to Sedona?
I have a sister girl, I call her. She's my sister, but we're adopted each other in life. I met her and her husband at that time in Florida where I lived, and basically dragged her out of her travel trailer she was dying in with her husband, and took her home and nursed her for a month and adopted her as my sister. When they came back here, she said that I needed to come out here. And it took me several years to be able to get to do that. And once I left Florida, it took me 4 years to travel here and stop and work along the way. But she's the reason why I'm here.
What was your first impression of Sedona?
I had never heard of Sedona before in my entire life. Until I got out here, and then somebody says, oh, drive over there and see Sedona. I said, what are you talking about? So I did, and it was the most beautiful place I'd ever been to in my life. It's absolutely gorgeous.
You work in Sedona.
Yes, I do.
Tell me about your work.
I work in a little shop called Sedona Awareness Healing Center. I work across the street from New Frontiers. It's a small psychic card reading shop and healing center. I'm really blessed to be of service when I'm able to go in there. It's about holding space and allowing people to come to me that need to have work done with them.
Yeah.
Healing work is a wonderful thing.
Tell me about it.
Well, I've been drawn to do healing work my whole life. I've been a natural born healer. Even my family and friends would come to me when I was a little kid, even the animals and everything. So it was perfectly natural for me to step into that. I had my long marriage of not being able to do that because I wasn't allowed to do this weird stuff that my life has evolved into during that marriage. But my daughter started asking me when she was young what was going on with that, and we learned together. So I didn't have to put it on hold to teach my daughter. So I'm glad I was able to do that with her.
Do you believe in any kind of afterlife?
Absolutely.
What do you think's made of?
Well, that's part of the work I'm drawn to, is that I do spirit communication. I told you I remember being 1.5 years old. The reason I remember that's because that was the first spirit communication I remember having was that age. I walked across the street to the cemetery and nobody stopped me. So I was walking across this little side street into the cemetery, and this beautiful woman stepped around a tombstone and said, "Honey, won't you come sit right here and play? Your mom will be right here." And so I sat right down in my little training pants and started playing with whatever was in front of the gravestone. And I remember she had a little blue suit on. You remember, like in the 60s, because this is when I was a kid, she had on the little suit with the skirt and a little beehive. No, she had the beehive hair.
Oh.
So her hair was about this tall, and she had on the slim little blue suit and white blouse underneath it with a vest or jacket and skirt. And she just patiently stood and watched me play, and then my mom came running like crazy out of the house. "Where are you?" And she screamed and ran over and got me, and that's about the first good spanking I remember getting, because I scared her really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to the lady?
She just wasn't there anymore.
Yes.
And Mom said, well, Mom asked me why I was sitting there. And I told her the nice lady said for me to sit down and play, and you'd be here soon. And my mom said there was no lady. So even at that young age, I knew there was a lady there. So that's part of my life. My whole life I've had spirit communication.
Yeah.
Natural.
Yeah. You're special. In what way would you say you're special?
I've been gifted to help many people in the healing processes of life and death. For whatever reason, God has chosen me to be able to help people work through things and then be okay to pass. That seems to be one of my specialties. That it's just okay. By the time their time comes, they're okay to go.
What do you like least about yourself?
Well, I was mentioning this to someone the other day because they made a comment on one of my pictures or something, and I said, but why is it I don't see what everybody else sees whenever I look in the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, because you're not meant to see the light that God has put into you. And I thought that was rather nice. I liked hearing that. Right, but I never see me when I look in the mirror. I see my perception of me. It's the best way I know to put it.
What's your favorite part of the day?
I love mornings. I'm one of the dreaded morning people. I usually wake up about 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I like watching the sun come up in the morning.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of the day.
The way you see things, how are things going to work out? Turn out.
Life in general, or?
Yes.
Well, that's part of that special thing you were saying. I've been shown most of my life different dreams of possibilities of things, of how they'll turn out in different ways. And I feel that there might be big changes coming up in the future. And it may not be very easy for a while. And a lot of people may not make it. And that's my perception of what's been shown to me can happen. So it's very important to be prepared for things that could happen unusually.
Are you prepared?
As well as I can be. And I have this undying faith that I know that I will be okay. And I have no doubts of that.
Yeah. When you were a child, where did you hide?
Closet. I had a little closet in the bedroom my sister and I shared. And that's where I would go in and play in the dark. Bitty movie projector things. And that's where I'd show my little movies to my little stuffed animals and things. So that was my favorite spot as a little one.
Uh-huh.
And other than that, I really like being outside and walking the woods and things like that.
Where do you like to hide now?
Outside. I love to go hiking. I love to go out in the desert. This is high desert, and it's very, very comforting to me to walk outside. So I recharge.
What is the hardest hike you've been on?
Self-imposed, yes. It was the hardest hike I ever did was one I thought was a good idea at the time. And it ended up not being the good idea at the time. I fell off a big red rock and sprained my ankle really bad, and it took a couple hours to get out. I call that the day that was a 3-snake day. There were 3 rattlesnakes on the way out of the woods and that day. So I really enjoy days that there are no snakes. But even a 1-snake day is better than a 3-snake day.
How would you like to be remembered?